Liz O'Kane is in with us now. She would, I suppose, you describe yourself as a property advisor and writer with the Irish Mail on Sunday. You're very welcome to the show.
Among other things.
Well, we're glad to have you. This is the first time you've been on.
Me. Yes,
so you're kind of like a virgin, so to speak.
A virgin. Whatever way you want to put it yourself.
I have to say that is the first.
Anyway, apparently, given the current...
you're blushing.
I'm just a tad. Given the current state of flux in the economy in general, and it would seem in the property market in particular, my next guest, Liz O'Kane, comes armed with reasons to be hopeful. Why should we be hopeful?
Oh, look, regardless of the property market, we have to have hope overall, because if we don't have hope, we're going to end up down at the end of a sewer somewhere. You know, you have to have belief. But in terms of the property market, there are some very innovative people out there, and I really applaud entrepreneurs and anybody who brings a new product to the market or a new model to the market that particularly first-time buyers can possibly get their teeth into now that the days of the 100% mortgage have disappeared behind us, thankfully.
But isn't everybody been told now, hang on, wait, keep renting for the moment, property prices are coming down?
Property prices are very certainly coming down, but according to at least half a dozen economists, and you can look at their report on the myhome.ie website if you wanted to, what they are saying now currently is that, yes, we've had double-digit reductions in the years of 2006, 7 and 8, but we are not expecting any more double-digit reductions in 2009. So in other words, you know, I certainly wouldn't call the bottom of the market, although I've been accused of, but I won't. But what they're saying is that we're probably expecting more modest reductions this year of about 5 to 7%. Now, in my view, and this is purely my view, any property that's currently on the market right now, you can probably negotiate that off the property anyway, if you can get the finance.
You mean thinking into the future?
Thinking, right now.
No, I mean you can go in now and say, well, listen, what's it going to be in 2 months? So give me another 5 or 6% off. Is that
sure,
that's what I mean?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I mean, how independent are these economists writing it on myhome.ie? Because, I mean, for ages everybody was saying it's going to be a soft landing, property prices are down 1-2%, but the reality was they were down 20% and 30% in some cases, and I knew anecdotally of places that were up in the 3 million mark that they were trying to get rid of for 2 million, then 1.5 million.
Yeah, you're
So
absolutely
that's not
right.
2 or 3%.
You're absolutely right. Not to. I'm talking about, but you're talking. Well, sorry, let's start again. Nationally, let's say that we are currently down 30% nationally since peak time at the end of 2006. Right? So we've had a 15% drop between 2006 and 2007, and another 15% drop technically between 2007 and 2008. So that's where the 30% nationally is coming from. This year we're talking about much more modest reductions. So yes, you're absolutely right. Property that came on the market at the end of 2006 and has been for sale since till now, and there were some significant sales at the top end of the market before Christmas, we're down 1 million.
But it doesn't make sense as I drive around. Oh God, I could sound like Marion there. It doesn't make sense as I drive around and I see a lot of estates with a lot of people living in them, but still maybe 10 or 20 units left over. And you think, surely they may have a profit at this stage. Get rid of them, sell them off. Get the buyers in and get rid of them and have the estate finished, etc., etc.
Sounds like a fantastic idea,
Why
Derek,
not?
but nobody can do it because they can't get the finance, and particularly in larger developments around the country. Well, we could talk about planners and we could talk about architecture, but we're not going to go down that road. But particularly in newer developments where the target market was first-time buyers, and up until very recently, certainly the last year, 100% mortgages were being thrown out. That is no longer viable because the banks don't have any money. So, I mean, what we have to remember is that this property crisis is as a direct result of a banking crisis. Globally. It's not just in Ireland, it's absolutely global. But there is one company who I've discovered, in actual fact, only in the last week, who I think have a fantastic idea, and they only came to the market a couple of years ago, and anybody who chooses to come into the market when the market is at its decline, I applaud hugely, because these are the people who are going to drive the market, put new incentives in place. And as Owen Harris said in the Late Late Show the other night, we need guidance, we need support, and companies like this particular one is called Rent to Buy. You're saying what you've just said a moment ago is flog these apartments, flog these houses, get rid of them.
I don't see the point of holding on to them while they're dropping and dropping and dropping. Just get rid of them with no attitude.
But this is the answer is, how do you get rid of them? You can't get rid of them if people can't get the finance to buy them.
That's true.
What the developers can also do is continue to reduce the prices. What difference is that going to make? It doesn't make any difference apart from the fact that you're losing your margin, but you still haven't got people that can get finance. So what this particular company are doing is, what they are saying is, okay, the difficulty for first-time buyers, particularly first-time buyers at the moment, is the ability to get the 10% deposit or the 8 to 10% deposit. So they have put a system in place whereby you can rent a property for 3 years while but ultimately you're going to buy this house at the end of the 3-year period. While you are renting this property, you are building up credit and you are saving your 10% deposit, which I think is incredibly clever, through a rental option. Right? And at the end of the 3 years, you then buy the property. You are buying the property at today's, or renting the property at today's current value in order to buy it at the end of a 3-year period.
And how much are you going to buy it for?
Depends on where you live. I mean, for example, Rent to Buy have properties that they have negotiated with developers in Cork and Dublin and in other areas around the country. So you're going to buy it at today's current value.
Price.
Correct. Current market price. The property may have come on the market in 2006 asking 300,000. If it's down 30%, what are we at nationally? Between 25 and 30%. So we're down to 240.
But in 3 years' time, the price could have stabilised.
Correct.
Or it could be on the floor.
Correct. It could be on the floor, but that's...
So do you have to sign up to buying it at today's price?
Yes, you do.
Where are the benefits? Why don't you just rent?
But why wouldn't... Why? Do you
know what I'm saying?
Well, listen, let's put it this way. The Irish are a nation of the field people.
Yeah.
We are not good renters. Our European cousins on the continent are well used to renting. We always want to own our patch of grass.
A bit of frontage. Yeah.
A bit of frontage and a bit of back garden as well. We like our patch of grass, okay? And generally speaking, we see rental as dead money. Now, interestingly, I'm just trying to get in here. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
She's calculating.
It takes a while.
I mean, the best renters we have had for the last 10 years have been our non-nationals who came here. They're our strongest renters of all. They're leaving now. They're on their way home, probably to rent in actual fact, or to buy far cheaper properties in their homelands. But we like having a mortgage. We like owning our patch of grass. And the interesting thing about rent versus having a mortgage at the moment is that the current ECB, the European Central Bank rate, is down at its lowest ever at less than 3%. We're due another interest rate drop once again. And there's more mortgage relief going into young people's back pockets. So technically we are in a downturn. But the reality is that if you are a homeowner, money is being put back into your pocket to be able to sustain your mortgage. And as of today's news, I believe that between Bank of Ireland and AIB, they have been saying that there's going to be some sort of implementation. Moratorium being put in place
for a year or something like
that.
But
for a year,
I'm still getting back to the Rent to Buy, which sounds like a fantastic idea. And as it happens, a guy I know who works in Dundrum Town Centre, because I think they've offered this to some of the staff there, if you work in Dundrum, because he was telling me that they were offering this thing where you could buy an apartment, rent it first for a few years, and then you start to buy it. And this must be the same scheme. And you get 5,000 to buy your goodies in Dundrum as well.
Don't know anything about the 5,000 to buy the goodies in Dundrum.
Well, this could be a deal they're doing up there.
And it sounds like precisely the same option.
This is a town centre, and I stand corrected on that. But what I don't understand is why you would rent for 3 years and sign up today to buy it at today's market price, and how much of the rent are you actually paying in rent, and how much of it are you actually saving in deposit?
There's a certain percentage that goes towards the deposit and that goes towards the rent. Now, if you get onto the Rent to Buy website, more of that information is salient there, but I actually would not know the figures because they're different in different parts of the country. But why do you think? Can I ask you? No, you're not at all. I'm just wondering, why do you think it's such a risk?
I don't think, not necessarily risk, because we don't know which way everything is going. As I said to you, the market could have stabilised, and the price they're saying to you today, let's say it's a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, depending where the development is and how many units they have to sell, and they may say 250,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. We're going to rent it now to you for $850 a month, and in 3 years' time you'll buy it at $250. But if the market is on the floor in 3 years' time, if it's on the floor in 3 years' time, then it doesn't make sense to be signing up to today's market price.
Well, look,
that's the chance you take. It's a risk.
There is a certain amount of risk, certainly, but there's a certain amount of risk in everything that we do. I would like to think certainly that the prices have corrected themselves. I mean, yes, our property market went off the Richter scale, and the interesting thing about it is the more that it went off the Richter scale, the more appetite there was for it. I mean, that's what's extraordinary. People had this almost incestuous drive to go out and buy more property as prices rocketed. And now that property has come back 30%, the whole thing has slowed up. But for most of us who are intending on staying in the country, who have a good credit rating and who are lucky enough to be in, fingers crossed, stable jobs for the foreseeable future, probably buying via rent to buy, by renting first of all and then ultimately accumulating your bricks and mortar, is probably a very safe bet. Now, in saying all of that, you can also walk away from this deal if you want to at the end of the 3 years.
Oh, well, that's good.
You can also walk away. So if, for example...
You're not locked in then.
Yeah, Derek Mooney, who's buying his 3-bedroomed house down in, the city of Cork somewhere, says, oh gosh, I've just got to transfer to Amsterdam. You can actually walk away.
Or I've changed my mind. I don't like this area. I don't like my neighbours, and I don't want to be stuck with them for the next...
Come on.
But that is always a possibility.
I think that's a little bit simplified. If
No,
you
but
don't want my saying,
but once you can walk away, I mean, there'd be any reason why you could want to leave a place, and if regardless of it, you all heard the neighbours from hell. But if you want to, you can. That's good.
Yes, you can.
That's a good.
Yes.
I thought you were locked in. If you're locked in,
No. Liz, I'm just wondering, right? So, say you rent to buy, and in 3 years' time you buy, but the rent you've paid for the 3 years, is that knocked off the price of the mortgage? As you said, we hate paying dead money, so that rent is...
Yes, you've accumulated your
years
deposit
of your mortgage.
So keep it simple. Let's say the property is €300,000. You need an 8 to 10% deposit, round it up to 30,000. You've accumulated the 30,000, so you're now taking on a mortgage of 270.
Okay. But that was probably explained at the outset, and it's all I'm only getting it now.
Jeepers, I clearly was doing a brilliant job.
No.
Who's doing the rent to buy in Dublin, please? Asks one texter.
Rent to buy.
Rent to buy.
RENT, the number 2 BUY. They also have properties in Dublin and in Cork and in other areas around the country. They are a Cork-based company.
And James says, Derek, property prices in Ireland were all at rip-off prices. Today's prices still have a long way to fall, he says. But I don't want to be actually negative, because I'm conscious of people. It's negative enough out there.
Do you know, I have a little sport that I do when I'm driving around the country, particularly around the Midlands. And I just have this thing of driving through all the villages, this new developments, and I'm looking for the cheapest, brand new, has to be new, 3-bedroomed house. It can be semi, it can be detached, it can be together. And I just keep looking, there they are for 220 there in Mount Rath. Oh, they're slightly cheaper then in the next village. And I just love to, that's like finding the cheapest petrol prices. I'm wondering, could people actually tell us what is the cheapest in the country, 3-bedroomed, brand new semi-detached house to buy? It's just a little hobby.
Are you in the market?
Are you in the market? No.
You're not, are you sure?
I'm positive.
All right, listen, we're going to go to A-Road. Lots of calls coming in on this. Liz? I love when you get text messages in telling you what they think the guest is trying to say.
Oh, Liz.
I think what that lady, that would be you, Liz, is trying to say is any rent you pay will come off the price when you buy. Because it's a text message, so they're never written, properly. There is someone in Wexford doing this, if that's what you're talking about. Somebody doing it in Wexford already.
Probably
so maybe same company. That buy to rent idea is crazy. Why buy in a falling market? Why not just rent? That was the point I was making to you. But I suppose, I'm not going to kind of imagine what you were thinking. What would you say to that?
What I would say to that is generally people like living in their own homes, particularly Irish people. As we go back to the patch of grass, interest rates are coming down, and and mortgage interest relief is particularly important as well.
Has this worked abroad, Liz? I mean, where's it come from?
The concept has actually come from the States, from the United States, and has been ongoing in the States for a number of years. It's been successful in the UK and around the London area for the last 3 or 4 years, and it is relatively new in Ireland. And the interesting thing about somebody saying, you'd be crazy to do this, it's the herd mentality. Once other people hear about this, and they know of friends who've been successful and who have managed to accumulate their deposit and buy a property via this method, I'd say more will follow.
Well, it'll be interesting to see.
It will be interesting.
During the 3 years you rent to buy, this text message says, you might lose your job.
You might lose your job. Yeah, but as we've already discussed, you're not locked in.
So
you're not locked in. It's
if you're not
bulletproof.
locked in, then it's slightly
different.
different.
It's bulletproof. There is an exit clause.
Yeah, and if it's a way of getting a mortgage that you probably wouldn't otherwise get if the banks aren't lending money, then maybe it makes a bit of sense. When it bottoms out, what is the normal expected yearly increase that we can expect?
Can you say that again?
What?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand that one either. When it bottoms out, the market that is, what is the normal expected yearly increase that we can expect? I'm not sure.
In percentage increase, I assume they're talking about when the market bottoms and decides to turn.
Possibly the interest rate.
No, I don't think.
Don't fully understand that.
I don't think that's
the problem with
what
text
they
message.
mean.
You don't get the full message.
Will it go up in price? Like by
No,
how
I think
much?
they mean, the percentage increase. Oh my God, crystal ball gazing.
Here's another one. If government bring in property tax on private residences, bad idea to buy in present market, says John. I suppose for the next 3
depends on
years,
what
if
the
you do
property
this way, you're going
tax
to be
is.
renting, yeah?
There has been a property tax already introduced, particularly for second-hand properties, or for people who own second, third, fourth, fifth,
I don't
and
think
sixth
they're calling
properties.
they're calling it a tax. They're calling it a registration or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not sure they're calling
come
it
on,
a tax.
let's just
but
say
it's
it's
by
another,
any other name.
By any other name. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is actually €200 per property. There is no current tax on primary residences, but I have heard that, yes, it's been talked about, but whether it'll happen or not. Actually, that was leaked in the news last week, and I think Mr. Lenihan came out and said that is absolutely categorically untrue, if I remember correctly.
There you are. Anyway, so people can contact this Rent to Buy.
Rent,
Do they
the
have
number
their own
2,
website or something like that?
BUI.ie. Rent, the number 2, BUI.ie.
Now, doesn't have to ask you one final question before we say goodbye to you today, because the clock is running against me. You can stay all right, but the problem is, would you do it yourself?
Oh, gosh. Well, that's a very fair question. Actually, it's a very fair question. Yes, if I went back to 1984 when I bought my first house, and interestingly, I did it with 100% mortgage myself in the UK in 1984. Would I have done it myself? I'm a risk taker, so the answer categorically is yes.
All right. Well, listen, best of luck. Thanks for coming in. Much appreciated.
Many
We'll have you
thanks.
again.
Thank you.
Morrissey's, this email says, Dan Morrissey's site at White Rock Hill in County Wexford are doing this very thing. And the trick in Rent to Buy is that the rent is higher than the market and the price may be more than the market. That's where they say the catch is. That's just a text message coming in. As I said, a lot of these don't come in with names on them. Liz, thanks very much indeed. Much
Thanks
appreciated.
very much, Jerry.